Hello, once again. Cathar Love, number 65. Secret Cathar Prophecies. There are people who have heard of these Cathar prophecies, but there aren't many. The most well-known was by Gulian Balabast, who was the last Cathar Bonhomme Parfait, Perfecti, to be burnt in the south of France, Languedoc. And before they incinerated him, he said in Occitan, and pardon my accent, Al capti set an. After 700 years, vedrego la laurel. The laurel will again grow green. After 700 years, Catharism will sprout again, will grow green. So that's one. The other one I'll go into a little bit later. I've mentioned this before. And this, after 700 years, we're in this age that he was talking to. And why now? Because this is the age of information. This is the age we can spread information. YouTube, Facebook, whatever, Instagram, but more importantly, any budding author who is inclined in that direction can put their book out on Amazon, or they can put out one on Kindle or an e-book, an e-publication. Like everything else, the first one's somewhat difficult. I've got some 7 books out now, both on Kindle and on Amazon. I'm not here to promote my books, so I won't go into that. The only 2 that I do mention is the Cathar Dialogues, which also mentions a part of the second secret prophecy. Now, they're prophecies. They're secret, basically, because very few people know them, are aware of them, not even know that Catharism isn't that well known, and people aren't even aware of that, let alone some of the prophecies to do with Catharism. So, this 700 years is this period now. We're right in amongst it. And there's a number of things. I was looking at YouTube, and one person had a page up, and he was saying that, yeah, there are Cathars in the world today, but they're not to do with the Cathars of old, because they were completely wiped out by the Inquisition. Well, he did mention reincarnation. Now, what is happening is that many of the Cathars of old are now being reincarnated. I was there at Montsegur. I was also burnt again. I was a perfecti then, Matthias. I was burnt again in Florence, about 100 years later. At that time I was a woman, also a perfecti. And what this person, and not just him, but a lot of people who read about the historical side of Cathars, Cathars are on one of their main, what we call it, main pillars of their philosophical belief is reincarnation. We know we are coming back. Now, what he was referring to was the fact that many Cathars, those who became the good men, good women, the perfectis, the parfaits, what they did was they went into this mystical and spiritual side of life, and it was a hard life. They did fast, 3 fasts. They fasted every week, but they fasted 3 times a year for 40 days. Now that's over a month. Obviously they're not, they're eating, but they're possibly just on bread, a limited amount of bread and water or something. But nonetheless, they're 40-day fast. Now where that came from, Christ, 40 days in the desert, and it sprang from that, I don't know. So they were lean and mean. There weren't too many obese Cathars in those days. Anyway, the Gilbert de Castries, he was a little bit portly, I'm told. He was burnt at Montsegur. So, but it was this age of information, and they knew they were coming back. Now there were those who did not want to come back, and there may be quite a lot of Cathars, I have no idea, who have not returned because this is what they want. In my case, and even now, I'm more than happy to come back for another lifetime, because I want to see Catharism entrenched, solidified, cemented within the belief systems of the world, because it's for the good of the world. But why is this? Why we've got enough religions, and Catharism is basically a philosophy, rather it's a belief system, it's a path rather than a religion. A religion tells you what to do, how you do it, where you go, and how far you go. Gnosticism and Catharism is the opposite. They want you to think for yourself. You're in charge of your own body, mind and soul. And also, what the Catharism wants to bring in is the fact that our God, if you want to call it, our source of all, is the source. They call it the divine light. Doesn't matter the term, but the source is certainly probably the most one, and it also the source means the source. It's the source of all. But and it's an unknown. We know we don't know that much, but what we do know, and we totally believe, is that the source is the source of unconditional universal love. If we look at the religions of the world, we see people beheading in the name of Allah. We see the Inquisition, who wiped out and burnt thousands of people. Not only that, they destroyed their families. If you were a heretic, they took away your land. You couldn't go to university. You took away your mode of living. They were out to totally destroy you. And this was a very, very horrible institution devised by the Catholic Church to wipe out the Cathars and then wipe out anybody who opposed them, with any heretical views. If we go into the Old Testament, you can see there was a God of wrath, revenge. If you didn't do that, I would destroy you. So there's all this death, destruction, pain, anger, torture, annihilation, revenge. This is what Catharism, that's the opposite. The absolute dead opposite to what Catharism is about. Catharism is about getting rid of your anger. I love this quote by Buddha, and diverge for a second, and someone said, to Buddha, what do you get out of meditation? And he said, not so much what I get out of it, let me tell you what I've lost. I've lost anger, I've lost envy, I've lost fear of old age, I've lost all these negative things out of my life through meditation. So, in similar vein, Catharism is about love. Not falling in love, it's about love. Loving people, looking at people, other people, as if they're your own family. It's about love, and because it's emulating a loving, the source. It's a loving God, or a loving entity. Because the moment you say God, we tend to think of a personal thing, and certainly the Cathars, the source, is certainly beyond, certainly not anything like a God or a personal God. So it's all about loving, kindness, assisting people, having a totally different mindset. And it's the opposite to power. At the moment, the world is becoming more what I can get and what I can get for me and myself and my family, and to hell with you. Catharism is no, it's about everybody. It's being looked after, looking after everybody. So, in a sense, what Catharism is out to do is bring in a social revolution. Because this way of looking at things, this way of your spiritual life, is purely loving. No one's out to hurt anybody. No one's out to punish anybody. You're out for people to be the best that they can. And we have our vale of tears, we have our ups and we have our upside and we have our downside. We get sick, we get crook. I did my back end the other day doing something that went over the top. I should have stopped, but I kept on going. So now I've got a bit of a sore back. I mean, we get pain. This is part of life. Living, dying, pain, but we have good times, you know. Life wasn't meant to be easy, but it can be delightful. So there are delightful times as well. So it's bringing about this revolution. Now, the other prophecy is appertaining to this, and this was by Henri de Navarre, who was taught by Perfecti, who was taught by Dion, the greatest but most obscure of all the Cathar mystics. And he said, what will arise now at this period? This is he said, is a Catharism for a different age. It's a universal Catharism. It's not caught up, because the medieval Cathars were basically an offshoot of Christianity. A Catharism for a different age belongs to no religion. It is purely universal. If you arrive from Mars and you arrive here today with a Cathar belief, you'll be quite at home and you'll be welcomed the same as anybody else. Now, the other thing is, and this is also not so much a prophecy, but it's an insight into Catharism. Catharism is not for the multitude. It's never been meant for the multitude, because it's too high and too remote a Gnostic philosophy for most people to get their head around, and most people are happy in the religion they happen to be, whether it's Judaic, Scientology, or Christian, Catholic, Calathumpian, Bush Baptist, Islam. Most people are caught up in that. But there are people. I mean, China, they got rid of religion, so there's not that much religion in China, and yet there's quite a spiritual void there. There's in Europe and we'll say the educated Western countries, a lot of them are given away. I mean, when I was a kid, the churches were empty. It's only the people who've come from Korea and the Middle East and all these things, and they're all starting to fill up and bring in their churches and so. Well, I mean, Australia, my youth, was a very, very healthy place. People didn't have religion. They closed down the seminaries. In fact, I don't think there's even a seminary here now for training priests. This is a very healthy situation from my point of view, when people could look after their own spirituality. So it's a Catharism. It's for a different age, and it's simply about caring and sharing and looking after each other and looking after the planet, and less about materialism. And in itself, this is when you think about it, this is a very, very powerful revolution, of spiritual revolution. So the two prophecies that I can make you aware of is that in 700 years the laurel will again go green, Catharism will arrive, this is now, and the other prophecy is that what arises is a Catharism for a different age, a highly enlightened age, but an age that is based on love and caring and sharing far more than what it is now. And once we have a grassroots and a good foundation, from there it can grow. But it will never be for everybody. People, and why not, people have their faith, the faith of their fathers and their mothers, and they hang on to that because of the culture and traditions, and that's fine, that's for them. But there are others who do have a void, who are looking for something else, and yet within that something else they can live. They're in charge. No one is telling them what to do. On that, I shall say goodbye for now.